committed itself to funding the commissioned budget as approved. And if that is done, then I think we shall be on course to deliver the general elections of 2026. Briefly, I would like to talk about the UBOS and census results, because this affects us in demarcation of local government council electoral areas. During the last general elections, we used census figures of 2014. However, along the way in 2020, Section 108 of the Local Governments Act was amended by way of increasing the population quotas as mentioned by the Commissioner. And when we did the demarcation of local government electoral areas this time around in preparation for the next general elections, we used the same population census figures of 2014, whereas the quotas had been increased. It was like reducing the council sizes countrywide. And this action, some of the political leaders are like saying they are being retrenched. They are losing jobs. And these are the complaints which the commission is receiving are mainly around that. And you remember one of those attempted to release the population results. The feedback that was got from the public led to UBOS to withdraw the report, and now we are told they are reviewing, because the commission had written to them that he wanted the data. However, written back, but informally they are saying that they are reviewing. So with the commission demarcate parliamentary constituencies, and the federal government had to use the old population figures. I think that is what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Electoral Commission. Perhaps only members in the room can give a loud hand clap for you for all this information, and the ones online can only listen in. I think we shall proceed as follows. We will have a round of comments, conversations, and observations, and then the Commission may respond to any questions that may come in. If you have complementary information to share or supplementary information to share or applause to give to the Commission, you can also bring it up. Then after our first round, we will allow the online team to also come in and say something, and then the Commission may respond to that. Then if we have time, we shall have another wrap. We could have longer wraps after the break. For now, let me allow us to have the first round of comments and observations, and then the Commission can respond. My observations will come after the first round of responses. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I introduced myself as Mrs. Scovia, but I can add on Nantongo. So I'm Mrs. Namasa Proscovia Nantongo. I have two issues that I want to comment on. The first one is a question. How independent are you as Electoral Commission? You are managing elections where the appointing body is participating. So how independent are you? And how safe would you be if results read the contrary to what is expected of you by Thank you for helping me. Yes. I was feeling uncomfortable. What would you do? Secondly, you've talked of sharing the roadmap, the electoral roadmap with us. What about the strategic plan? Because I'm seeing a copy. I don't know whether we can also have a copy of that. Okay.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Simba. Actually, I can vouch for the Electoral Commission because our organization, the African Center for Treatment and Adaptation of Torture Victims, we wrote to them and we went and met them. So the issue of stakeholder is something which which they have really taken seriously, and we really thank you very much for that. Now, my questions is around the electoral reforms. Are they still going to be made? Because until now, time barred, since the roadmap is now out, because Parliament may pass electoral reforms, which may need you people to go back to the drawing board. So I wanted to find out if they are going to be passed or if it's still an issue. Secondly, is there a plan B for the delivery times? Because the issues of procurement can at least be challenging where the goods and services are not got in time. Is there a plan B by the Electoral Commission? And last but not least, how many political parties so far are going to participate? And is there room for new parties? Thank you very much.
A very good afternoon, colleagues, and thank you, Presenter Dr. Simba. I've read a lot of your work. I did work with your colleagues, Dr. Nasozi, and I think another man called Mbuzi, or Sabun Ara Mbuzi, during the review of Uganda's foreign policy, 2011-2012. It's called who? No, there's Patrick, there is the Professor Kasaija, but there was another gentleman, he has a bowed head. I think he was Mbuzi, some name like that. Professor Mwambusia, we sat together in the first presidential debate. We had quite a discussion. I have not seen you since. And I'm glad to see Professor Delande, Professor Valia. I've read your work on elections. And my senior doctor, we last met at the regional conference in Munyonyo on informal justice. I've met Mr. Bukenya, I think, some years back at Cavendish. Met you in the corridors. They say that's the man who does things. It was in good faith, as they were saying. So I'm glad I'm in familiar territory. My name is Baguma Richard Watoro. I'm a lawyer. I work at Kalende and Company Advocates, but also I'm doing research with the University of Maryland. We are working together with SEDAT at Makerere. University of Maryland is here to see how they can convert our plastics into building materials with Kubik of Ethiopia. So I'm doing their policy work as well. My questions are, ideally, I'm constrained whether it is doctor who should be looking at it. But the question of the army representation in Parliament has been a cancer that is eating up this country. People think it is one way that we allow one candidate to take advantage of the systemic and endemic problem of structural constraints that the army has already been provided for to have members in parliament, and we know that who they vote for. There is no of the 10 members who represent parliament going to vote for Baguma or Dr. Simba for that matter. I think this is a question that we need to discuss as citizens. If you asked me, I would want them out of parliament if it was within my powers to do so. Secondly, it has been documented year in year for all the last 4 elections, violence occasioned by the security forces against candidates, against voters. We cannot wish away this problem. We need to have it managed. This time round, the Supreme Court has already pronounced itself on the fairness, much as I saw Doctor struggling to project the image that all is fair and square. It is not. It is on record that so many bad things have been allowed to happen by the Electoral Commission. Only that it's a body that has not been sanctioned. But I think at some point, the managers need to have a self-introspection internally to see how these issues are managed. Then coming to the numbers, the 2014 census, as you are mentioning, the 2024, they said 22.7% are years between 0 to 17 years. Now, maybe you both knows, but the rest of us, we do not know how many are going to transition to 18 years so that they are able to vote. Of the 0 to 17 years, the 22.7%, whatever that constitutes of the 49.5 million people. Then you have 51% being 18 to 30. That is okay with the other categories, the Bagumas and others who are entering the 50s. I'm wondering, there's this number that has been played out that we have about 24 million voters. Is that true? I've been reading people throwing numbers around. So I'm struggling to see if that is the statistics whether we can raise the 24 million voters. That is basically my question for now. I'll return with others.
Can I just do, build my question from what he's just said. I heard there is a rumor circulating that the Electoral Commission talks about 24 million voters. NRM claims that they have 18 million voters, registered voters on their register. Then another major party claims they have 17 million members. So when you add both, you get 35 million. And there is also a contestation about the census, the recent census results. So as the Electoral Commission, who are mandated and have promised to conduct fair and free elections, how are you going to dispel with that rumor? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for that elaborate procedural technical presentation. But some of the questions, unfortunately, are not going to be technical, and you are at liberty to answer them or not to answer them, because yours was merely technical. I merely wanted to start with where she started from, whether you are at liberty to give an answer about the appointment of commissioners, because that has been the major complaint about the independence of the Electoral Commission. But that one you may be at liberty to answer it or not. But maybe this one you are at liberty to follow it up. What about the appointment of the staff of the commission? Is it Are the posts normally advertised? Like, or we just wake up and hear so and so is now the communications director of the Electoral Commission? Or how are they appointed? But not only the full-time staff, but what about the other polling officials who are not full-time staff? How are they scrutinized? Because you talked about the capacity. We from the education side, we know the capacity can be the knowledge, capacity can be the skills, but capacity can also be the values, the integrity, the norms that the person so appointed holds. Now, related to that, I have had a colleague from somewhere, I think the gentleman there, I've forgotten the name. Yes, that's one about the electoral areas, the gerrymandering or not. You have made an interesting statement. That we pray, we pray that they don't increase. They have already said they are going to increase, cities are going to come. So that statement of yours seems to be saying you have no powers to stop the government increasing these electoral districts. By that statement, we pray that we hope that they will not do that. Do you have powers to say, from now onwards, there is no increase of these electoral areas, because otherwise they have been used as also gerrymandering. During the elections, there are certain statements that are undemocratic, which are made. I don't know the Electoral Commission's capacity to discourage that one, or to stop that one, or to comment on that one. You find a non-democratic statement is being made, either to intimidate, and we don't hear the Electoral Commission again coming in. So I don't know, during the process of elections, or even before campaigning, what is the mandate of the Electoral Commission to intervene? What is that administration that the Electoral Commission does? How far? You know, we used to have a chairman of the Electoral Commission here called Dakabgai. During the campaigns and during elections, he would go on radio. By then they were not many TVs. And even after he has heard a statement that somebody was involved in irregularities, he would even mention the person and say, you stop, and I'm directing the DPC of that area to go there. But since that time, I have not heard it. I'm just going to follow it up with an illustration, sorry to mention the chairman of the Electoral Commission. In the last election, he made what it is subject to another interpretation, what I considered as a bad joke. There was a complaint about being harassed, and he did say, oh no, me, I have not subscribed. I have not subscribed to my TV. My subscription is expired. My subscription is expired. To me, it was a bad joke that Amriat was registered in his presence when he was nearly naked and had been beaten, stripped. And then you follow it up by a bad joke. I have not subscribed, I didn't see. You know, he didn't see. When somebody came to him with no shoes, and he didn't see, and he made a bad joke. So that is the trust, Dr. Kayunda, you have pointed out. Following those ones, you know, the trust is lost. So I don't know what you are doing in your meetings to restore that trust. We say the campaign period has not come, but somebody is campaigning. And nothing is being done. There was an election, I think it was Sirika Suja chairman. There were people who were arrested and beaten and tear gassed somewhere, I think in Nigeria or something like that, for having campaigned before the time had been announced. But another candidate was in Kololo campaigning openly near the electoral commission. By then it was still here. Even from a microphone, a mic, you could hear that somebody was campaigning, and he was not stopped. So how are we going to restore that trust when everybody can see? You are talking about equality and media. The judiciary, the courts have pronounced themselves time and again that the public media has been biased. Time again, another election, the same story, the same story. What are the powers of the commission to ensure that there is this equality of access to public media? And if there is no equality, so what? Go to Mr. Wanga's statement again. We pray. We pray that the public media this time will give equal opportunity to everybody, or what? Anyway, what is the total sum of what I'm saying? What are the powers of the Electoral Commission in terms of electoral administration? Where do they start? Where do they end in terms of enforcement? Enforcing what? Because normally the Electoral Commission talks in terms of technicalities. You know, we follow the law. We are following the law. We don't know what that following the law means. Does it include openly telling the candidate that you are getting out of order, you are out of order, publicly? Akavai used to do it. I don't know why he was not renewed. Akavai would go on radio and say, candidate so and so, police commander so and so, I hear you are doing this. If you don't stop it, we are going to arrest you. But these days we hear technicalities, you know, that is not our area, that's not our mandate, the laws will take their course, our law says this and that. So how do we restore the trust then? If the administration, part of administration is not enforcing the laws and regulations, because you issue regulations, don't you? You issue regulations and they should be followed by everybody. So I'm glad you made such a statement. It's like we have inclusiveness, we want equality, and the general population wants to see that. If they see that, I think they will not fail to have trust in the Electoral Commission.
Can I answer that? We can, because I'm losing track briefly, and then we can have a second round. As I said, I came with a technical team to handle the difficult questions. But let me try, and for me I handle the easy ones. But let me try to see, to give response to some. I start the question of how independent are we? Since this is a book project, probably one of the chapters should focus on a comparative study of electoral management bodies, especially in Africa, to bring out a picture where the so-called independent electoral commissions appointed differently are performing better. We need a study of that kind. Because the little political science I know, there are three types of electoral management bodies. One, the independent one, where the appointment process is outside people at times, some apply, and an independent commission vets them. Then they are appointed. There are countries which follow that model. Unfortunately, some of these countries following that model. In Africa, after the elections, there was a military coup. Burkina Faso, Liberia, I'm not so sure. South Africa is the only exception. So that the type of independence constituted by civil society and so on. Those in the power, the state has no control over its constitution. But there is a study to find out whether their electoral outcomes are qualitatively better. Kenya, I think, has almost that similar model, but the outcome of their elections are determined by the judiciary. So that's what. Then, of course, the second category are government model management bodies, where the people can conducting elections as part of the state. Yeah. Surprisingly, United States is of that model, Sweden, Denmark, so many countries in the world. The people conducting elections are part of the state structure. We have not conducted a study saying that because the local governments in Sweden conduct elections, therefore elections in Sweden are not free and fair. We need that study. There's no, have you heard of the outcome of United States? Yeah. Most of the state structures, the state local government state structures conduct the elections. So having said that, of course the third model is mixed model, representation plus expertise. I think the framers of the 1995 Constitution had what they thought would be an expert model, election management model, where all human beings, we have been where we are. Unless somebody God can lend us people to come. Otherwise, all human beings, was it Aristotle said, man by nature is a political animal. Having said that, with nature of appointment, after you have been appointed, Article 62 of the Constitution requires you to act independently. Appointed by Article 61, then Article 62 requires you to act independently. So our independence, therefore, as I said, is to ensure that all actors are given equal opportunity. Some of us are new there. We don't know some of the challenges, probably we may not yet be sure of them, but we have, it's our intention to ensure that all actors are given equal opportunity. Now, whom do we announce? The Constitution is very clear. The one who has more votes is the one to be announced. Yeah. So for presidential elections, more votes as long as they are above 50%, 50 plus 1. Unless you have contrary information that somebody got 49, of course there are those contestations. Last 2 months we were in the anti-trusting debate. The president saying 1 million votes of his were stolen. And the opposition says it is him who stole. We had an opportunity to, the opposition has not met us to tell us their side of the story, but the president met us. He showed us what he believed was what happened. By the way, he was quite frank. He said, well, there was a collusion between opposition, some NRM people, polling agents, and some security agents. He said there was a that one group did not have the capacity to do it alone. So there was sort of, so he has his own belief. But as of now, I believe we shall endeavor to declare the person who has gotten the highest number of votes. Of course, there is a difference between parliamentary and presidential election. But let me just give 2 examples as background. We received what's called baptism by fire. immediately after, the very day we were sworn, after swearing in, we drove to Dokolo. Because the Dokolo was 20 days, it was 60 days, but already 20 days had gone, so there was no time. We went to Dokolo, good enough thanks to the technical team, much as they were doing this without a commission that put things together. We found all these political actors campaigning. I think from my expectation, two parties thought would win. FDC seriously thought they would win. NRM thought they would win. I'll go to that question of our power control. There were RDCs there, so 11 sub-counties, so that brought 11 RDCs. The RDC of Dokolo had invited 11 other RDCs, each RDC for a sub-county, told them, forget. This is Dokolo, it has one RDC, and the people who should be charged in security is police. So we don't want anything funny. The chairperson openly said, some previous elections, there were cars without number plates. Yeah. He ordered that any car without number plates should be confiscated by police. Well, that was the order. Good enough, there was no car. Election took place. From nowhere, UPC won. From UPC won. One of the parties gave us a petition wanting us to stop declaring the winner. We said, you have not given the grounds on the basis of which we should not declare the winner. We had a complaints desk, no complaint had been lodged. We declared UPC as the winner. Going back, the recent one, of course, we are learning. Of course, as I said, now, presidential elections may be different. Going to Kisoro, 4 days to elections, we got a complaint. This party answers whether we have some levels of autonomy to do things differently. 4 days to elections, we got a complaint that the president was going to campaign in Kololo municipality, and therefore rallies for candidates, other candidates in Kololo municipality are banned.
Who gave that order?
RDC. So we liaised with security, say this is wrong, because after these people have been nominated, all the candidates sit together and come up with a campaign schedule. So if a candidate had put his schedule for Kololo municipality on that day, you cannot wish her out unless you negotiate with her to allow her to change. So we stood our ground. The NUP candidate was allowed to campaign, not on the very day, but a day before the president came. And we told police to give her all the security she needed to conduct a fair election. We only requested that to avoid Arua, after they have campaigned on that day, let them retreat to Kabale, so that there is no, unfortunately, even when the day the president was there to campaign for his candidate, NUP again went. and they made a procession alongside the military vehicles. Military vehicles. Still, we got information. We told the military, concentrate on protecting your principal. Don't harass anybody. So that happened. When we went on the day, rumors had circulated that, in fact, not rumors, people are saying whether the NRM candidate is voted for or not should be declared the winner. Yeah. So that was the rumor, whether she wins or not, she'll be declared the winner. Unfortunately, of course, even with due respect, the guide I was given to take me around the entire Mufumira North kept convincingly that there's no way the NRM candidate would not win. He said, why do you think so? Unfortunately, partly because it was a district election, we overwhelmed the potential cheats with the high levels of organization, and it was practically difficult to cheat. We declared the person who got the largest number of votes, in spite of the pressures. So the last two elections I've participated, they may be micro, but we have stood our ground and declared the person with the highest number of votes. Yeah. So come next election, we shall see how to handle that. But in principle, that is what ought to be. So on the independence, true, that's how we are elected. But Article 62 is very clear. Once you are appointed a commissioner, once you are vetted by Parliament, and some of us are even lucky or unlucky that when we went into vetting, all the members of appointments were 100%, that's including opposition, voted for us. So we have an obligation to Ugandans to act independently. So, but as I said, just look at various modes of elections. And in Uganda, with due respect, there was a model, possibly that's why Professor Mambusha keeps referring to Akabwai. There was a model which was so representative, with Kitariko as Secretary General of DP as part of the commission. There were UPCs there. Were the electoral outcomes different? They're not different. It was highly representative. UPC was represented. DP, the Secretary General himself, who was there. But I'm not so sure whether the electoral outcomes were different from what you people think. Anyway, that's an issue of independence. We are governed by Article 62, and all our staff in the manual are not supposed to be members of any political party committee, including these ones we are recruiting. If we discover that you have been elected, chosen as electoral officer, a presiding officer, but you are also a member of NRM at gross electoral loop, we shall remove you. I think that's what we are doing. We shall remove you. So that's one. Electoral reforms. Unfortunately, there are reforms which are needed urgently. Like the one I've said on the right of prisoners and the right of people in the diaspora. So those ones need specific legislations. Unfortunately, when people now talk of reform, they bring all issues which complicate electoral reform. They bring in issues of changing from first past post to proportional representation, hundreds of issues which cannot be handled at a go. You look at what my line minister is proposing, what Mpuga is proposing, to go through all those reforms. Possibly the first reform you need to do is to change the constitution and push for elections 5 years from now. Otherwise, if the elections are, in fact, nominations are not even, because in March we are starting with the seats, less than 4 months. So we have 4 months to start with the special interest groups. So with all these comprehensive reforms, some of them are necessary, but it is too late. It is too late. Nevertheless, having said that, we need a reform within the law to allow us to conduct elections within prisons. The existing law does not allow us. We need reforms in the law to allow us to conduct elections at embassies. There is no law, and these are specific. It was a court order. So we don't know what happens in January after we have published our voters list and these people are excluded. The other reforms, they can come at any time. As of now, some of the reforms may not, are a little bit late. On the issue of army representatives, this is a long story that is not within the powers of Electoral Commission. It is Parliament and to push through that reform, not Electoral Commission. And chooses to reform that one. I don't think Electoral Commission will insist. So it is within the powers of Parliament, the people, the citizens, to push for those reforms. Having said that, I've missed being part of the book because I would have really got interested. The history of army representation in Parliament. It is not an NRM phenomenon. It starts in 79, where the liberation was perceived to be led by the army, UNLA. So since the liberation was led by UNLA demanded that it should be represented so that the politicians don't confuse them. So when NRA goes, UPC, in fact, the multi-party elections 1980, you know there were 10 army representatives. 10. I remember this young man, very vocal, Namiti, Captain Namiti. And nobody has researched on that history, how they were voting, because 10 army representatives in a multi-party dispensation. We academics, we have not written about that history. So Museveni comes in power with that history, but also with the notion that the military was the vanguard of the liberation, and therefore as vanguards of liberation, they must have a watch, there is a what? Listening post. Listening post. So the army representation in Parliament has its history, which should be interrogated before possibly people can debate whether they should be there or not. Otherwise, it is not within the ring of Electoral Commission to say whether the army should be there or not. In terms of violence, true, previous elections have been characterized by violence, but how many of us have read the recent Afrobarometer report from Democracy? None of us. You will be shocked in that report of where the violence comes from, what the people think the violence comes from. I will not tell you what I read. You read yourself. To misinterpret and say Commissioner said so and so is said so and so. But read Afrobarometer report. It was very clear of violence.
In Uganda?
Yeah, during elections. Yeah, it was independent. It was independent. So I think let us read that report and then make sense out of it. Of course, what all of us say, including the chair, our hope and wish is to have a violent, free election. Our wish and hope is to have a violent, free election. We are going to have a meeting with our security personnel to discuss two things. One, what is necessary, that security is necessary for an election. Police, according to the Constitution, is supposed to be the lead institution. So how do we provide security during the elections without cases of violence? In fact, we told them when we conduct that meeting, we shall invite them to be part of that conversation. So otherwise, our position is that we should strive to having a violent, free election. But some people at times provoke violence because there is a political capital. Because as I said in Kisoro, when people started conducting rallies alongside military vehicles, you would see where they were going. But the security was in order, please, unless the provocation is such that you cannot handle. Even if somebody stones you, accommodate the stoning. Yeah. So, but anyway, we shall discuss. We shall invite stakeholders like him who are interested in that angle to ensure that we can conduct a violent, free election. By the way, last election in the United States, it was recorded they also over-deployed. Yeah, they over-deployed in the United States. Yeah. So 2-3 things, then we can have another round. The voters. Was it the discussion in the last seminar where I read that there was inflation of voters? Not necessarily I'm praising, but times give credit where it is due. Because if our voter register was faulty, we would have started feeling that fault at these macro elections. When we displayed the voters register in Kisoro, did we have problems? We displayed in Kisoro. Nobody told me, us, that your voter register had been inflated. In fact, we are shocked that the number of people we added on were extremely few, because after 2020 we expected Bafumbi to have done the needful and the numbers of voters would have gone up, but there was a very, very minimal increment, and as per law we gave, these are some areas we need to reform, because the law, I'm told, only allows us to give voter registers to political parties. So Akifeza did not have, the agents of Akifeza did not have the voter register. So when I went to all polling stations, said, but why isn't Akifeza's register having, agents having registers? I was told the law says we give registers to political parties. Yeah, but candidates, I'm told they can buy. Yeah. What helped us, thanks again these people who, there are issues, not to say it was 100% perfect, there are issues. But what helped us was that the agents of the NRM candidate and Akifeza, we are working together. They are sharing the registers. They are sharing registers. So that helped us. Otherwise, those are some areas also which needs reform. So in short, as far as voters are concerned, our position is, come January, we are going to display. Well, for how long?
We are going to go up to date
for 30 days. Yeah, they will be at the villages, and there will be committees to look at them in case they are wrong people.
Yes.
Yeah, and the committees are led by, is it parish chiefs or what? Not our people. Not our people. Yeah, the people who look at the voter register to determine its accuracy at the local level up, the judiciary. So after everybody has taken it, looked at it, we shall display. So in case of any inflation, it will be detected. In case between January and the other January, the other inflation, that will be sorted out by giving the candidates the voters register. So the issue of 24 is projection. The issue of 18 by NRM, we are not supposed to interfere in internal affairs of political parties. So when you invite them, I hope you invite them as you have invited the Electoral Commission. They will explain. I cannot explain on that. Otherwise, we shall strive to ensure that the register. For some of us, that is the heart of a free and fair election. Two other things, and then we can have another round. Professor Mumbusha, are we at liberty? And how is our staff appointed? Our staff are governed by public service regulations. In fact, 90% of the staff are governed by public service, not 90, everybody, public service regulations. And public service regulations, when you are recruiting, you have to advertise. We did an advert. People applied. We only gave conditions. As I said, if we discover you are part of a political party executive committee, we shall remove you from the list of presiding officers. Nevertheless, having said that, this one, since it is a public institution, I have to be very frank. Some of the staff we found there, in fact, some of them were recruited in 1999. They have been working with the commission, some for 25 years, very, very dedicatedly. The debate now, should we introduce avenues of promotion? So that if somebody has been a head of department, he has worked to your satisfaction, and a position above him falls vacant, should you advertise it, or should you promote some of the people whom you think have been hardworking? The debate which we are reflecting on, we think in order to motivate some of the staff, there should be avenues of promotion, as it happens in other public institutions. So otherwise, our recruitment policy is governed by public service regulations. All our employees are under public service regulations. When a vacant falls, it should be advertised. And some positions we may advertise and shortlist. We still need of officers from public service to help us in conducting the interview. Yeah. So that is that. Last, increasing electoral districts. Where is the power of the commission? Unfortunately, I think this sometime, the professor barriers. In some countries, constituencies are different from administrative areas. And where constituencies are different from administrative areas, the Electoral Commission may have the powers to determine those constituencies. In Uganda, some administrative areas coincide, in fact constituencies coincide with administrative areas. And the Electoral Commission has no powers to start a city. Huh? If the government creates a district, what you have to do is to ensure that that district has a chairperson, and the councillors. But the powers with these councillors, that's when we have powers, because governed by that quota system, 30 per village, per people, 100. I think we can combine some villages. We can combine some villages into one electoral area. Those ones we can do, but with constituencies, once which coincide with administrative areas, once a district has been created, a city has been created, however independent you are, you may have very little. Of course, as of now, with due respect, I will not go into some of the conversations which are going on. We have tried to make some people in government to know that any creation of a new administrative, it will be too late for 2026. But we don't, some of these conversations are at early stage. They can't be in public. Those are the challenges, but that for the time being. We can have more discussions on my senior, my boss. First of all, the comment he made, as far as Amriat is concerned, I've not seen it myself, so I cannot condemn him or whatever. No, I did not hear the comment. So I will not comment on some. I will not comment. I will not comment on that. Nevertheless, my friend Rengabo can write an article on the politics of Amuriati's ship. It's a very interesting story. It's a very interesting story. Much as I'm here, but I have very people close in FDC, and I know the discussion around that issue. So we need a whole paper on that one. Okay, so I've taken more time, but we... to make one comment, and then the online team,
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. As Commissioner consults, thank you very much, Dr. Simba. I think that some of the issues we are discussing are minor. They are not the real issues to discuss. For instance, army representation. These are minor issues. In fact, I wrote a whole paper on the representation of workers and youth. That paper is there, and I was recommending that even those should not be there, and there are reasons for that. The paper is there. Leave alone the army. In fact, it doesn't matter whether they are there or not. The bigger politics is not about 10 MPs out of 500 something. On the issue of how many we are, how many are voters, I think even if we discredit Ubos, what Ubos did, but it gives us some indication about the nature and character of our population. And we know that the overwhelming majority of the population is below 18. Overwhelming. So you cannot have more than 50% being eligible voters. That's not possible. Because the majority of the people are really very young. Okay? Even when you take into account the fact that there is that small transition from 16, 17 to 18. So I believe that we may not know the actual real size of the population. For instance, my family was not counted. Many people that I know are not counted. Yes, so if you take a sample of the people close to me, you find that 40% were not counted. So what is this census really? What is this census? I think it may give us some indication as to the character of the population, but I don't think it was a credible census. Now, what I would like to comment on are actually contextual issues, not those minor issues about electoral reforms and whatever, because those are not the issues that determine the nature and character of our politics. I think even when you talk about the nature of the Electoral Commission, that in itself is not actually important, even from your argument. What is important is in what context are we holding elections? Now, when you look at Kenya, the reason why they are able to achieve the little movement that they have had, it is because political contestation is real. There are forces that actual forces competing against each other. Okay? But now in our case, you see, the entire landscape is so skewed that there is essentially no contestation. There is essentially no contestation. So that is why you will find that the ruling party, the president, is in control of all, not only systems, but institutions. So that even when you have a challenge and you want to go to court, the kind of courts that we have now are not what you would consider judicial institutions that are actually going to give you justice. And part of the reason is the way that the recruitment is done and the criteria that is used. Secondly, when you look at parliament, which comes as a result of elections, now, if about 80%, 70 to 80% of MPs never return, and you have this big turnover of very insecure individuals who have gone to parliament as a result of what you know, commercialization, 500 million, 1 billion. So what do they go to parliament to do? They go there to recoup their investment. And they are very vulnerable because most of them now even have no experience. These are very young people. And they look at parliament as a job. So we have bigger contextual issues that we need to deal with before we can say, can we have a free and fair election? The technicalities they are talking about are not the important things, but it is the context in which an election is held. And I think that's what we should be thinking of, which is even long term, not just one election. That's the comment I want to make. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I would like to call on the online team.
I would like to call on the online team your comments and observations, and then after your comments and observations, we will give the technical team from the Electoral Commission to add on whatever issues they may think they want to clarify that the Commissioner may have left out, after which the rest of us shall proceed with our conversation on tea. Because I think we need to be a bit time conscious. Our time is already out. So online team, any questions or comments? Get us the hands that are up. As the online team shows us, please read for us any comments that may be there. If there are any comments.
How many people are online?
About 19. Yes.
Listening or putting up their hand?
Listening and participating, and but putting up hands. How many hands do we have? Online team, any questions or comment? You can speak straight if you are ready, or raise up hand and then we'll pick on you. As we wait on the online team, allow me to allow the technical team that accompany the commissioner to give us any additional clarifications that they think they could add on so that the online team prepares itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was a question raised about the number of political parties that we have. Right, 26 registered political parties. There are also
more than 30.
Yeah. At one time we had about 36. 10 political parties were deregistered sometime back, I think in 2013. We issued an application to court in accordance with the law. They were non-compliant to the provisions of the Act and they were deregistered. So right now we have a total number of 26 registered political parties. How many will present candidates during the upcoming election? We cannot speculate on that. But yeah, the participation has not been, all the 26 did not participate in the 2021 by way of presenting candidates. Either at local government, I think for purposes of presidential, we had 8 presidential candidates. 4, I need to reflect, there's a report there. I think 4 were from political parties, 4 were independent. If I need to verify that, my figures. But for parliamentary, we had about 7 political parties. We had very many independent candidates compared to political parties. Then local governments were a little bit higher. I think I need to also verify that. We have it in a report. We have a table. I need to, about 18. Yes, about 18 for local government. So the participation varies. At presidential, it's low. At per parliament, it gets a little figure is added on, and so on and so forth.
Well, what do you think will be the cause for the number of existing parties but which are actually not participating in the electoral process? What would be, from your experience?
Well, I think there is need to engage them, to also hear from them, but parties are formed to participate in political activities, and we have engaged with them in a national consultative forum, and they are actively involved in political activities, which keeps them active and compliant with the provisions. They hold meetings, they have membership, they prepare returns, but at the time of nominations, those who present themselves are the ones who nominate. We don't know why they've not done that. So the NCF, the National Consultative Forum, has been an avenue where we've been engaging and encouraging participation. For example, why would a party which is national in character fail to present a candidate at even a local government where even nomination of a candidate is free? For those parties that are saying we don't have money to sponsor candidates, for elections where you're required to pay 3 million. So why would they participate in the lower, or even in LC elections? And we have statistics for LC, which you can avail in the course of this engagement. So there are 26 registered political parties. Their participation varies, but their leadership and their records are still active and compliant in such a way that they remain on the register. Some have registered, rather we also have applications for those that want to register political parties. I think right now there are about 6. They're going through the processes. So that is the one I wanted to answer on political parties. Those are the ones that are registered. They are legally participate in electoral activities, and as and when they turn up, we will see their participation. But we're encouraging them to consultative forum. And the people who hold cards, party cards, what we also have observed is that someone can hold cards for 3 political parties. So it is possible for someone to say that we have 18 million supporters because they have issued 18 million cards and they have been received and picked by individuals. At the same time, another party can say that we have 17 because they have actually given out up to 17 million. So I think for us, the most important thing is are they registered to vote? And so when we come to the voters register, it is decisive. We also know that some people, perhaps for one or the other, and perhaps there's accountability, and I don't want to go there, have issued cards to persons who are not registered voters. Or a speculation that they will be 18 by the time they... So it is recruitment. We can't go into how parties recruit and their figures. Eventually, when we go to the register, that's where we engage from. Those are the observations I wanted to make in relation to the questions that came out in the first circle. Thank you.
Anything else?
I have just one small question about the electoral.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Dr. Simba. About the voter register, I didn't hear something about update. The process of updating the voters register. Previously, there was time to call upon the commission to update the voters register. With the national ID, I don't know. So what is the current position about voters registers update?
The technical team will handle that, but as we were saying, once issuing out to once we started issuing out to national ID, I think we are supposed to migrate information from their system into our system, but Rwanda can elaborate on that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Update, if you look at the roadmap, is scheduled to be conducted in January, starting January, I don't remember the date, but for 30 days. And we do update in conjunction with the NIRA, because NIRA is the one to help us identify who are citizens, and we extract our register from the list of citizens compiled by NIRA. So it's going to take place for 30 days, and thereafter we shall process and come up with an updated register which we shall display later.
So I think the new cards are for next year. It's too late to forget.
But maybe just to add, colleagues, you've mentioned
thank you so much. I have a question for the Commissioner, Professor Simba. Just to thank you for your presentation. You taught me political science in Makere University. And congratulations for taking up the role at the Electoral Commission. My question is that in the last election, 2021, civil society organizations who have hitherto observed elections collectively encountered serious challenges, denial of accreditation to some of them. Even those who got accredited to observe elections, that accreditation was not only disowned, even though it was bearing the signature of the Vice Chair of the Commission. In fact, the data center where observers had a desk to aggregate the reports from the field was raided, and they were arrested by police and spent 4 days in jail. And that's where the denial of the accreditation happened. raises a serious credibility issue. Hitherto, we understood that there was an independent review or at least voice around observation that civil society provided to the Electoral Commission. Can you assure, as a commissioner, that approach to managing relations with the election observers, independent election observers, this time around will not really occur, at least under your tenure? Is that conversation going on in the Electoral Commission? Thank you.
Any other online? Teopista? Teopista.
Thank you. I'm called Teopista Kize, work with African Youth Development Link. Thank you so much for the conversation, and Commissioner Simba, thank you so much for the clarification that you made. Yeah, my question is on a recent exercise that was conducted by the Electoral Commission on identification and mapping of persons with disabilities for their inclusion in the voters register, but to also cater for adoption of strategies and measures for their effective inclusion in the electoral process. That is an activity that was not anywhere on the roadmap, but we are glad that the Electoral Commission has done something around that this time around. But my question is how effective was that exercise, because it was just given a period of like 10 days, and then also is why wouldn't the Electoral Commission engage other stakeholders in some of those engagements or activities? Because I know that we have disability organizations, but we also have some other civil society organizations that have been doing some work around that. But we only saw a press release about that. I felt that as stakeholders, it would be good for the Commission to communicate and see if they could be of help in terms of mobilization of citizens, creating awareness and all that. So how effective was that process? What informed that process? How effective was it? And how is the Electoral Commission going to ensure that it reflects in how they plan for the elections? Thank you.
Any other? Anybody else online? I think we can respond to those ones, and then the rest of us will proceed with the...
First question. Because I'm sorry, it's quite interesting that I thought I was retiring, but I came in a world where, of course, I'm very proud of finding so many of my former students in different capacities, both civil society, other stakeholders, even the Electoral Commission. So the position of Electoral Commission as far as civil society is concerned is clear. We look at society as very important partners, not only in the electoral process, but the entire democratic process. It is an important partner. It is our policy to reach out to as many as possible. So far, in the 9 May month, we have existed as a new commission. Almost every week, we are discussing issues with one civil society organization or another. And on the issue of accreditation, I'm told there are some issues which happened before. So we are having engagements with, first of all, NGO Forum. We have met 3 times so far. The last time we met, we told them to write a concept paper on the basis of which we shall have a broader discussion on how civil society and the Electoral Commission work together in order to deliver a credible election. I'm yet to follow up when because they're supposed to come and then somehow we went to Kololo. Otherwise, in terms of accreditation, so far, of course, national elections, as I said, presidential elections may be different from parliamentary elections, but last elections we have had, all civil society organizations which have requested to observe elections, we have allowed them to do so. And this I'm saying authoritatively because I chair the accreditation committee. So we have not left out anybody, including where there is provocation. You say because there is a lot of process needed, let the last application be on Friday to allow our team to work on those accreditation cards. So 24 hours to the election, you get a letter requesting to be accredited. So we have had no option. I just give specifically said Kololo, when as we are moving to Kololo, Women's Situation Room brought a letter. They want to observe. So I rang chair. This is the only women group which wants to observe so far. How do we say no? So we had to order part of the staff to go back and work on the accreditation committee. So in short, our position, we want to work with civil society, even these civil society organizations which may have had issues, if they are still registered civil society organization, let them write to Electoral Commission. They will come, we engage in a debate so that what could have happened in 2020 does not repeat again. So we won't be as open at that. On the issue of PWU, possibly Ranga will comment. The exercise, first of all, we expected to get this data from our sister institutions. Unfortunate about PWUs. Unfortunate, I'm not so sure whether if we went to Ministry of Women and Gender, that's where they're supposed to be best, whether we can get the information we want. So we took a decision that let us go out there in the field and have them registered. It was advertised. There was an advert in the newspapers. We told our team to conduct radio shows, talk shows. There were over 40 radio talk shows. Only that we were alerted that the category of people we are dealing with, those radio talk shows may not be effective because they may not have the capacity, and we did not have did we use sane people? Some don't have. So nevertheless, personally I went, much as our staff on the ground was supposed to do the exercise. Most of the commissioners went micro on the ground to see how the exercise is being conducted. I was in Mfufu, that's around Seguku, between Zana and Seguku, because I'm in charge of the Kampala region, and I attended the entire exercise. So nevertheless, we are receiving complaints, which we are handling. We are supposed to meet the minister for PWUs and coordinate. Some of the MPs representing PWDs have written to us. One political party has also written to us. I think we are meeting them next week. So, and then of course we shall display the lists. and we expect people to raise concerns as well, and we shall work on those concerns. So we may have made mistakes, but it's not too late to address these mistakes. We shall address them because sincerely we want these people to participate in the electoral process. In fact, we told them we want 3 levels of participation. Where I was, 1, we want them to participate as voters. 2, we want them to participate as candidates. 3, we wanted them to participate as presiding officers in the electoral process. So that was the message, and we're also interested in listening to issues which hinder them to participate as candidates, which hinder them to vote, and which may hinder them to act as presiding officers of elections. But as I said, there are concerns which are emerging. It is not too late. We shall display the list. We shall meet various stakeholders. Not only that, we have directed our officer in charge of seats to meet the youth leadership before the commission meets, to meet the women organization, to meet the worker groups, and then at an appropriate time, with this stakeholder engagement, the entire commission will meet all these groups and iron out whatever issues may be still existing before we go into the actual practices. Technical team is here. I think you are the brainchild of
you have, Commissioner, have ably handled it, but what I can add is that it wasn't haphazardly done. It was a planned activity, although it may not appear vividly on the roadmap, but the fact a budget is that it was an activity which we intended to do, and it was on plan. And the view was we wanted to have a credible register for this category of voters because of their uniqueness. That's why we had to look for them from the villages using LOC1s and our field team, so that we identify them, we identify their type of disabilities, and also be able to find out how many of those, say the blind, how many of those can read using Braille as a language, so that if you think of in elections using Braille as of one of the voting materials, the voters capable of using it. And the other thing is, in the caller said, the online caller said, how effective was it? I think at this point we cannot determine how effective it was, because I've just received the returns, which we are going to process. After processing, we shall make a report, and from that processing results is when we shall determine the effectiveness of the exercise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 3 things before
just one observation relating to civil societies in the last election. Yes, one had to do with the regulation issues. Because we accredit only those who are also compliant and do not have issues relating to their regulation. So we handled the accreditation in accordance with our guidelines. But the other one also relates to the environment, which had the COVID-19 as a factor. We were facing issues with how they're going to support voter education, given the new environment, the unique environment in which we are going to operate. So I think there was goodwill on the part of the Commission, and we had some CSOs accredited. We can't talk about the internal issues some umbrella organizations had, like we had the leading umbrella organization, which had internal issues, and I think it was a very big rallying force for voter education CSOs, and their issues internally also created a gap in that space. But like we've informed you, one of the adverts that has been put out is to express interest to conduct voter education, and we think that and we've received applications already, which we are going to go through vetting and then issue accreditation letters so that they support the voter education function, because they are very, very important, the way they reach out to the communities. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to say three things before I make my comments, because my comments and questions are not supposed to be answered. We will answer them as we take tea. Number one, every one of us is tea after my last comments. Number two, I think we need to give a loud applause to the Electoral Commission for the wealth of information they have given us, and to thank them for opening their doors so that we can continue to engage them in these processes. Number three, I can now give my observations. The first one relates to the comment that Professor Maria gave. In a depoliticized environment, what role do elections play? I think as researchers we need to think about this kind of question so that we are able to know which issues are election management in nature, which issues are political context in nature, and which issues are actually structural and societal. Because the powers, the independence, and the mandate of the Electoral Commission cannot be inflated. Sometimes you may try to exercise your independence and then you exceed your mandate. You bring legal and other questions. Or you try to exercise your mandate, but the environment does not allow you to exercise your mandate. Or the other side, you try to exercise your powers and you find that the environment is not. For example, if the Electoral Commission marked the civil society organization, it may be easy for them to call the police and they arrest you and take you away. But if they marked a political party, which may even be wrong, even with the civil society may be the one saying, you don't mark the opposition political party, even when the party may be wrong. Or maybe politicians have a louder voice to defend themselves than civil society organizations are, because the context in which we operate will not allow us to go deep and understand whether actually this is a procedure issue, this is a question of mandate, this is a question of powers. The other issue is now to ask ourselves, are technicalities only enough? If all the procedures of delivering a free and fair elections are in place, are they enough to give us a free and fair elections? Two, are non-procedural practices alone enough? If they were in place and the opposition, the ruling party and everyone decided to become very democratic people, but you have an incompetent commission or a commission that has not put in place the right procedures, would that be enough? I think neither. You need both. You need a conducive environment, non-procedural elements of elections, but also procedural elements of elections, so that at that point of convergence, that's when you can have a free and fair elections. So judging a free and fair elections can be difficult. You may end up pointing fingers to the wrong party or not pointing fingers to the right party. But the period, the number of elections we have now held since 1996 have provided us with some minimum learning. When you see us still asking the Electoral Commission about the military in Parliament, that's a wrong question to the wrong party. Yes, when you see us asking issues of appointment of the Electoral Commission to the Electoral Commission itself, these are wrong questions to the wrong party. Why? They don't appoint themselves, and the appointments, the procedures and decisions and the mandates of the appointments are not determined by them. They are determined by another entity. And that brings me to the interrelationships among the institutions that are responsible for our free and fair elections. I'm reducing it to free and fair elections so that I don't overextend it to democratization and cause problems. If the Uganda Bureau of Statistics cannot give us reliable data, or if the National Registration Authority failed in its mandate and on its delivery, how then do we get a clean voters register? Now, when we can't get a clean voters register because of the institutional failures and weaknesses of UBOS, of NIRA, and then we point fingers at the Electoral Commission, are we pointing at the right actor? If NIRA gave us enough data, or UBOS gave us reliable data, and the Electoral Commission fails to process a free and fair, a clean voters register, we would be right to say, but wait a minute, you have data from NIRA. And I think the Electoral Commission needs to put in place cushions to make sure that those institutional weaknesses elsewhere are catered for in these procedural processes, so that you say, I will compile the register, I will display it, and I will talk to the voters to make sure they check themselves on the register, so that the register I compile, whether or not it is consistent with the data from UBOS and from NIRA, it is consistent with the actual presence of the voter in the society, in the parish, or who is supposed to vote at that polling station. When you don't put those cushions, you may end up being blamed for the institutional dysfunctionalities of the other institutions. And this also relates to the role of security forces and even the parliament in providing a minimum enabling environment. If the elections went wrong in Chisoro or in Dokoro, we would put the Electoral Commission to task and say, hey, you guys, you have failed. When UBOS failed to deliver census results, we are relaxed. But all of us academicians here know that we rely on UBOS data for our researches, especially quantitative researchers, and they even said that the 2014 data had problems, but we have publications. Should we pull them all those from journals and book publishers because we know that our data was questionable? This would open up a new debate. So in terms of understanding the operating environment, we need to go deep and deep enough to be able to point the fingers at the right actor. The other one is the question of constitution of election management bodies, which the commissioner talked about, and the quality of election delivery. I think we need to sit down and think about such a study, because is it the constitution of electoral management bodies, or is it the institutional autonomy of state institutions in a given country, in a given polity, in a given context, to operate in ways or according to their mandate, or to be held accountable according to existing rules and procedures of the game, of the governance landscape of a given country? Many countries have departments in ministries which conduct elections, and they don't have independent commissions. Some of those countries actually hold better elections than us. Then we have independent electoral commissions which are appointed and then given all the constitutional and legal powers, and we accuse them of failure to conduct good elections. So where is the problem? I think this research is good. The other thing would be, maybe we should have planned it earlier on, so that CBR has some of its of the researchers on this project, at least to do non-participant observation. Go and sit at a district between now and May next year, or at the headquarters, and see what it takes to bring the food that comes to table. Because when you go to a party and someone delivers a nice meal or a very bad meal, sometimes you don't know what it takes to have prepared that meal, and we are waiting for the meal in 2026. That's why we're talking of 2026 elections. But if we could be able to observe by being present in the field and seeing how they are handling the people with disabilities register, then we will be able to know that actually this activity is on the roadmap. Because when you see on the roadmap there is election of representatives of people with disabilities, for you are looking at that event, not the process leading to that election. Some of this learning would be important for informing our, perhaps, empirically more enriched analysis of the challenges of elections management. Finally, is there a role, maybe from the perspective of the Electoral Commission, that research institutions like CBR can play, not in pressuring, but in engaging the key institutional actors on the important reforms, constitutional and legal, that would, one, enhance the image and standing of the Electoral Commission vis-a-vis the public, but two, increase trust among the citizens on the election activities and processes we undertake. What would change, for example, if the military were not in parliament? What would change if the Electoral Commission were given the mandate to command the security services during elections? Because commanding security services is not a big deal. It's a matter of saying, CDF, you are not going to deploy anybody without my approval, or maybe that is what it is, or what happens, or what is supposed to be. But what would change if the Electoral Commission were the ones to issue orders on crowd control during elections? If we start thinking about some of these things, we would know where we should point fingers to Parliament, where we should point fingers to the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, even to the presidency, to the political parties, to get these things right. Finally, would an undemocratic political party landscape, the absence of internal democracy within political parties, would such an environment allow even the National Election Management Body to conduct a democratic process? How does the lack of democracy within political parties affect our elections? There could be many other issues, but I think those are some of the issues I have raised. You can now receive our big ntanda from the Electoral Commission on behalf of the Executive Director, and I invite every one of you to the tea thereafter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Since the roadmap?
The roadmap I need to
and the officials.
we can report both the roadmap and the speech.